The action was brought to recover damages for the assault and battery, alleged to have been committed by the defendant upon the plaintiff on February the 20th, 1889. Okay, so this case is old, right? This is, by the way, part of the reason why I even decided to start making videos concerning law, because the way we teach law is so old. Like, the Socratic method has been around for forever, and somehow we haven't updated it. We haven't looked at it and said, you know what, like, yeah, this worked 200 years ago, but we have different tools now. We have different ways of doing things. Like, maybe we should make an update. I'm just saying, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do things a little different. So I figure, the Socratic method can be taught. Like, sometimes you just have to see it. You just have to see what a lawyer's thinking, and that'll give you some insight. Like, I remember asking an instructor, like, okay, well, what's your thought on this? I asked them, okay, let me start here. I did not come from a family of lawyers. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I went to law school. I was clueless. I mean, I was trying, but if you don't have somebody to ask questions to, like, it's a really confusing place, frankly. And so I asked this instructor, because I was trying to figure out how to do these essays. Law school grades, almost all of them, depending on the school, but almost all the schools, the entire grade is based on the final exam. So if you do well on the final exam, you're golden. If you don't do well on the final exam, oh man. And unfortunately, it doesn't really matter so much how well you do, so much as how well you do compared to everybody else. Law school is a race. You're competing against other people, and somebody's always going to be first and someone's always going to be last. So, yeah, you're not competing against the instructor, you're competing against your classmates, which is an interesting place to be, because you're trying to make friends too. Like, you want to build connections, you want to be friendly with people, but they're also your competition, which is a wild place. And you'll kind of see that in practice too. Like, you want to be cordial with, opposing counsel, which is the lawyer on the other side. And sometimes you might need a favor from them, and sometimes they might need a favor from you. And most lawyers will try to be accommodating if they can be, and it doesn't affect their client too much. Like, maybe, somebody missed a deadline, or, they needed an extension or something like that. You don't want to make too many enemies. And at the same time, they are your competition. And if they win the case, you might lose your case. Or rather, especially if you're defense, your client is not going to get the outcome that they want or need. Kind of a problem. So it's a totally different battlefield from what you would see in like a 4-year program, a bachelor's, or other methods of schooling. So I was asking this instructor, okay, but like, how would you write these essays, right? And by the way, these essays are timed. So you go to a testing room, and there's just keyboards clacking away on a made-up scenario. So you learn all the lessons, all these parables, you learn the lessons from all the little stories like this one, and you put them all together, you put them all into practice on this like made-up scenario that the instructor came up with at some point, maybe over the weekend, I don't know. And your job is to try to put them all into use, right? And I remember asking this instructor, like, how would you write it? And they said, well, the way that I write it isn't the way that you would write it. And they didn't really tell me much. It was just like, okay, cool, but how am I supposed to write this then? Like, if you don't If you don't tell me what you're expecting on the exam, how do I know like what I'm supposed to do? And that's a really big, I don't want to call it a flaw, but it's one of those really big aggravations of law school, because they all play this game of like hiding the ball. That's what they're, literally what they call it, like it's a game of hide the ball. And to an extent, it's how well can you get along with people who can give you intel, intelligence, meaning information on things I don't want to say you're not supposed to know, but how can you uncover this like secret knowledge? And if you come from a background where you're familiar with that, like you got to get your information from them, right? So if your parents are lawyers, you can just ask them, like, hey, how do I look at this case? I'm like, what am I supposed to be thinking? And the reality is I didn't have that. And it seems this instructor didn't want to give it to me either. So you're at a pretty substantial disadvantage if you don't have that. Which is part of the reason why I'm, going through all this too. Because this is, I think, what I wish somebody had done for me. When I was going through law school, like,